Hello all, am I audible? Uh, Please confirm me once. Okay, thank you, Nafisa. So let's just wait a minute. Very few people have joined, so let's wait a minute so others can join. Meanwhile, let me share my screen. All right, I think people have joined. Okay, so today I will be discussing about loops and unions, accept, intersect, query optimization, and normalization. So these things I'm going to discuss today. Uh, Not much, and not basically required. Some other things like query optimization and normalization is not required, but still, I will be telling you about those things. If it is asked in an interview, then you can answer based on that. So that's why I'm including this part. Otherwise, just basic queries you should know. But these concepts, I mean, if you're working with a database, then those are important as well. Yes, so so let's start working on loops. Yes. Uh, so what is a loop? If anyone knows, uh, can tell me. Uh, like what you know, what loop or what that will do. If you just heard this term, anywhere beyond SQL, also in programming or anywhere. So let me check the data. I think no one has heard about loops. Fine, no issues. So yeah, loop is basically you create a loop to do the same thing again and again, to reiterate basically. So let's say there is some process which is being done. So and it is different than stored procedure, right? Stored procedure is whenever you will call the same thing will happen, but in loop, what is happening that it will be getting executed by itself as many times as you have defined it. And let's say you have provided a condition that this loop will be running until this condition is not met. So till that time, that loop will be running and it will be performing some kind of operation which you mentioned inside that loop. Yes. So basically, there is a initial point from which the loop will start. Then there is something called as iterator or counter, you can say, which will increase or decrease. That depends on the criteria. Uh, it can increase or decrease according to you only. I mean, you will specify how much that has to increase or decrease. And third thing is the condition part, until which point the loop should run. So until and unless that point has been reached, the loop will go on. And if you provide some condition which is like impossible, like it is not going to reach that, then the loop will be infinite. The loop will go on and your system will hang, and so there will be an infinite loop. So you will have to terminate in between, manually or somehow you will have to stop the execution. So generally we don't do that. We always take care of infinite loops. So basically, yes, there are three things in it. First, there is we initialize a variable, you can say. Then we then we provide something like we increase or decrease the value, and until the condition has which we mentioned, until that has reached, the loop will go on and it will do some process, whatever you want to do inside that loop. And after that condition has been met, it will exit from the loop and it will do other processes whichever are in the pipeline, whichever are in the sequence after that. So I will show you the loop that will be that will be more beneficial. But still, is everyone clear about, at least you have some idea about the loop? Like before hearing about this, you may not be having any idea like what is loop, what it will do, but at least you got some idea like what is a loop, yeah, and why we will be using it. If not, then I can explain you again. So just confirm if you have at least got some idea that why we'll be using the loop here. Yes. Please explain again. Okay, fine. Uh, because just verbally speaking is not easy, so I also not in SQL. I will show you. Just the while loop. See, this is Java, so you don't need to know Java, but this is just an example. I don't want to show you in SQL right now because I will be providing an example in SQL, right? So again, showing you on the same thing on the web page is not useful. So I'm showing you Java. So just an example. So here what I told that there should be some type of initialization, yes, of the variable. So here I'm initializing. Don't worry about the syntax and all these things because this is Java. So here integer is the data type of this variable and providing initializing the value as 0. So this is the first step like I told in any loop. Then what I'm doing, I'm providing a condition that I should be less than 5. So I told three things, right? First, there is initialization, then there is condition, and inside that, uh, there should be some increment or decrement, or anyway, I mean, it's your choice. So this is the condition, and this is just printing the variable I. Don't worry about the syntax. And here I plus plus means that I plus 1. Yes, so it will be getting increased by 1 in every iteration. So first the value of I is 0. It will go inside this loop. It will check, is I less than 5? Yes, it is less than 5 as it is 0. So what it will do, it will print I, that is 0. Then what it will do, it will add 1. So now it will be 1. So it will again go inside this loop. Now it will check, is 1 less than 5? Yes, it is. So again it will print, again it will add 1. It will do 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. When it becomes 5, let's say 4 was there, now it becomes 5. So 5 is less than 5, false. It is not less than 5. So it will not go inside this loop. It will, this loop will be terminated, and afterwards any other query or any other steps are there, those things will be executed. So even if I see, if I try it yourself, if I try this, and if I run this code, so you can see 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is not there because 5 is not less than 5. Yes, so Dhaval, is it clear? At least got some idea? Okay, perfect. Okay, now let me show the example. That was in Java, right? So let me show in SQL how we can do that. So first, let me provide you a simple example. Then I will try with something else. So basically, two examples I want you to show show today. So let's do that. So first, let me declare a variable. Declare counter print is equal to 1. Then I will be explaining the query. Pivot table in SQL. What do you mean by pivot table in SQL? Yeah, I guess someone wrote a blog on that from previous batch. Not sure that we can do something about pivot table also in SQL. Yeah, so I'm not covering that basically. I will have to explore it, but I think it's possible. If you Google, I think you will get it how to create a pivot table in SQL. I think it's point and click options itself. So yeah, so okay, fine. So let's do this while counter less than equal to 25, let's suppose, and begin print counter set counter is equal to plus 1, and let's end this. So let's first just let me execute this. If it's working, then I will explain. Okay, perfect. Okay, the same thing which I showed you in this example, it's just the same. I mean, there is not uh, it's not different. They are basically the same, just the syntax is different. So here also, as I told you, there are basically three steps in a loop. First time, initializing the variable. So this you can give any name, written it as this is a user defined variable. Yes. So that's why I discussed how to declare user defined variable in the previous session, as it was required in the future sessions. That's why. So this is another use case. We can use it in a loop. So I am declaring it as initializing it as 1. Fine. So now this is the condition which I am giving. This is the syntax while. While is the syntax. This is the loop. So while counter less than equal to 25. If this condition is satisfied, it will go inside this. This is the start of the loop. Begin. This is the end of the loop. Yes. So we have to provide some kind of starting point, ending point. Otherwise, if I write, let's say if I write something else here, then it will not know whether this is in the loop or not in the loop. It will consider that this is also inside the loop. That's why you have to provide some uh, you have to provide something that it will know that okay, the loop has been ended. So same thing here also. If you can see the braces are there. So while the braces starts, braces end. So same way here also we have that type of thing. They're telling the loop starts from here, loop ends here. Yes. So now what I'm doing, I'm just printing. I think I showed you this print thing when we discussed about user defined variable. This is just for printing the variable's value. And now I have to increment or decrement. So I'm incrementing. Why? Because my condition is less than equal to 25. If I decrement, then this will be like impossible task to get this value. So it will be an infinite loop, which I don't want. So I'm increasing. I can increase it by anything. I can even multiply. You can do anything. Just that this value should somehow change. You know? Otherwise, if it is not changing, if it is static, then this condition will be never met, and it's an infinite loop. This loop will go on. Yes. So that's why what I'm doing, I'm setting. Set means just I'm assigning a value. What value I'm assigning? I'm incrementing this value. Then once it is inside this, first there is one. It will go inside. It will print one. One is being printed. Then what is it going to do? It is going to add one. Now the value is 2. Again, it will check here. 2 value is less than equal to 25. That's correct. Then again, it will print 2. That again, it will print 3, 4, 5. It will print in 25. Why 25? Because it is less than equal to 25. It's not just less than 25. Yes. So here it was just less than 5. That's why it was just 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. If it would have been uh, while I less than equal to 5, then this also would be having the 5 number. Yes. So this is the thing. Guys, just confirm me if you've understood this. So I can show you another example. But why do we need loops? The second last code before end. What would be the difference if the plus one argument was not? Okay. See loop. I will show you another example of loop. See loop. See, let's suppose you wanted to do this task. Just assume you don't have the loop thing here. Yes, you don't have this loop thing here, and you want to print this 1 to 25 numbers. So will you do this just print, print 1, print 2, print 3? Are you going to do that, or are you going to use some other method to showcase? Let's say this is just 1 to 25. What if you have some 1 to, if you want to print, just a simple example I'm giving you, just a simple example. What if you want to print from 1 to 1000 number, 1 to 1000? So you're not going to print each and every number, right? You need some kind of a mechanism that you can print all the numbers in that fashion. Yes, so I mean it is just for doing the same task again and again. Here it is a simple example, but there can be much complex operation which can be going on. You might be inserting some data in a loop. Let's say you want to insert 1 to 100 number in a table. So you are not going to insert values. You don't want to use that command again and again. You need some type of mechanism to insert, let's say 1000 records you want to insert with 1 to 1000 numbers. Just that this is 1 to 25. Let's suppose you have 1 to 1000 number, and you want to insert that all those numbers in a table. So you're not going to do this insert into table name and values. You're not going to do this, right, till 1000 times. So by this you can do that also, and you can do many complex stuff by this. Okay, perfect. Is it anyways useful data animation daily work? Can you use cases of it? I mean, I'm showing you. See, different companies they might be using this SQL stuff. If you work as a data analyst, they might give you only SQL work, not Power BI, Tableau, Python, in the beginning. So if you know this, then it's good. I mean, even if you don't know, I mean, I'm just trying to discuss the things, so it's fine. Knowing things is always better. Yes. Okay. So why set counter plus counter required? Uh, like I told, if I don't do this, see counter value what I'm providing here, it's 1. Fine. If I comment this, I don't want to start an infinite loop. But if you want, then I will do it. Let's see what happens. So I'm declaring it as 1. It is less than equal to 25 is the condition. If I don't do this, if I just keep on printing, what it is going to print? It's just going to print 1. Yes. and this is one is always going to be less than equal to 25. So this loop will never terminate, right? But I need some type of termination after a while. So that's why I'm trying to increase the value. You can do anything. You can do counter, you will do counter into 10, anything. You just have to change this value because we want to make it dynamic. So that's why after a while, this condition will not be satisfied and the loop will end. If I do this, this loop will never end, right? See, let me do this. I don't know what is going to happen. I think it has already gone to infinite loop. See, it is still executing query, and I think this will not end. Yeah, so I think we will have to stop this. Yes, so you can see it is infinite loop, 1 1 1 1 1. So I mean, I think the point is clear why we need to change this value. Yes, if I do this and if I again try to implement, then it's fine. The loop has been terminated and completion. So have you understood why we are doing this set counter, Deepak? Okay, fine. So let me give you another example. Let me write the query first, then we'll explain, declare. Then I'm declaring some user defined declare. This time I'm defining a table with num int with date date declare date big first date is equal to 2020 first. And if I start the loop now, while at the rate num greater than -1, begin the loop, insert into the date, loop now, the date, select, select the num, date add, first. Select num is equal to num plus 1, and if at the rate num greater than 52, break. And select star rate to date. All right. Okay, let's first try to execute this. If it's not working, then I will tweak things, and I will explain you. Okay, fine. I think it's working. Perfect. Okay. So now this is some kind of, first what we were doing, we were declaring user-defined variables. So this is also declaring this type of variable, but this time instead of providing a data type that is int, character, varchar, what I'm providing? Table. So this is a table now. Fine. And here I am providing, as you know, what we have in tables, we have columns. So this is a column, and this is a column. This is the date data type. This is the int data type. Fine. So WNM means week number I'm trying to provide here. This is the week date I'm trying to provide. Fine. I will tell you why week number, week name, and week date I'm providing you. Yes. And before having any loop, as I told you, we have some kind of an initialization. So that's why this is the initialization. Declare num int is equal to 1. This is the initialization which I'm doing. This is also one kind of initialization, but my condition is not depending on this part. So it's fine. So this is the first date I'm showing. I'm storing it here. Week first. This is my first date, which I will be showing in the output. Yes, so that's why I'm initializing. Now, these two things are done. I created two user-defined variables, and I created one table also. Now, I have to use my loop. So basically what I want to do, I want to have an output in which I will have to show 52 week numbers. Yes, 52 week numbers. And let me like specify the initialized, like the first date, which I've already specified. Let's suppose I have that date, and I want to show, like the dates which will come after a week, after second week, after third week. So let's suppose I have this date, 2021 first 7. So what will be the date in the second week? So it will be 7 plus 7, that is 14, then 21, 28, 4. So that's how the loop will go on, and it will be inserting this data in the table. So that's what I want. Yes. So if you simply do insert into values, like I told in the previous example also, we don't want to do that. I mean, this is a hectic task. So for that, as I want to do the same thing again with just a little modification, loop helps us in doing that. Yes. So what I'm trying to do here, I'm providing this condition while at num greater than -1. See, this is kind of, you can say, impossible task, which is not going to happen, right? I mean, this is going to happen because this is true every time. So this loop can be, go to infinite loop. That's why I provided another condition here. I will explain you this. So this is kind of an infinite loop because this is going to be true always. Yes, because I am incrementing the num value here and not decrementing. So that's fine. Now I'm beginning the loop here, and now insert into this table which I had created. I'm inserting the values here in these two columns. So this is pretty straightforward. Now, if you remember, I had shown you how to insert values from other table, or insert into this and then select statement is to write. So whatever select, whatever columns I used to select, all those values would be inserted into the table. Yes, so the same thing again I'm doing it here. So it is select, and this is the week number. It is the this value which I've initialized. Yes, so this is the first week, and what I'm doing, date add is a function. I think I've shown you this before. I'm not remembering it, but if not, then I will again explain it. Not an issue. So what I'm doing, date add means, as the name is telling us, it is it is going to uh, add to the date by this interval. So I have provided week. If I provide month, then it will be added by month. If I provide year, then it will be added by year. So I want to increment by week. Yes, as I told you, I want to increment by week. That's why I provided interval as week. Now, how much I have to increment? First time it will be incremented by one, as my first value is one. Second time it will be incremented by two. So 2 weeks it will go forward, then three, then four, then five, up till 52 it will go. And from which date we have to start? So it will be this date which I have provided here. Declare week first date, this one, W first. So this function will be applied on this date only. So first it will be 1 week from this date, then it will be 2 weeks from this date, then 3 week, 4 week, 5 week, and so on. As this number is getting incremented, first one, then two, then three, then four. Now, this is the condition I'm providing here. If at num greater than 52, if 52 weeks are done, then I need to break. Break means this loop will get terminated when this condition gets satisfied. So break means we are terminating the loop. Continue means we are again going inside the loop. So there are like two statements, two commands which we have. So break means we are terminating the loop, and end means we are begin of the loop and end of the loop. That's it. So that's what happened here. I declared this table and all these variables I defined. I defined it here, and nothing, we have just inserted the data here. So as my date was this, I'm doing date add. That's why 7 days got added to this date. That's why the date is 2021 first 07, 7 days after this date. Yes, then 2 weeks, it is 14, 21st, and so on. Yes. So guys, have you understood this concept? I think it was easy, but still, can you explain WK variable? WK. Okay, this is not a variable. This WK means I'm uh, adding my week. If I write, I don't know what's the WK month. Sure. Okay, your suggestions are there. Fine. So let me check for month to 8 month. So if I do this, let me check what I will be getting. And I think data has already been added. So change the table for now. Let me do this one. So a week thing and month thing is separate. So let me keep this as one. And let me do this. So now if you can see, I've added by a month. So now if you can see first month, second month, third month, 4th month, 5th month. Yes. So this is just the interval. Now by this I'm adding, right? By this number. This one, then two, then three. But what is it, a month? Is it a year? Is it a week? Is it a day? So that I'm specifying it here. It is 1 month, 2 month, 3 months. That's one. So first I provided week, right? Because I was adding weeks here. Now I'm adding months. In the same fashion, I can add year also, add days also, add hours also. It depends. Yes. So is it clear, Kritika? In the table, you have declared two columns. Should the if number be changed to, well, yeah. In months, we have to change that. That you can, change it. We're just trying to show. If the table you have declared two columns, week now, week date, but in the next two declare statement you have done, yes, huh, I can declare any variables I want. It's not like I have to declare. These are just the columns which I'm having the table. Yes, this is the initialization part for my loop, and this number is going to be added here. So I'm just providing those things here. This is my first date. It's fine, right? Why will I initialize these things, this column, because I need to insert the values here. Okay, perfect. Yes, so guys, while I think it's clear, I mean, and also why we are using it, I think that's also clear. So let me move on to the next concept, that is union, accept, and intersect. So let me do that. So, okay, so I let me do this quickly because this is not something major, but all right. So for union, intersect, and accept, so there are some rules which we have, which we follow. Just like I think if you know Power BI, right? You all know Power BI. So in that we have used something that is append queries. Do you guys remember append query in Power BI? Just give me a guess if you guys remember that. Yes, okay, perfect. So there were some rules, right, in that the column ordering and the column data types should be same when we are appending. So basically, you are uh, joining the tables column wise, one above the other. That's what we were trying to do in append queries. The same thing we are going to do through SQL. Yes. So not just union, that append thing will be done by union command. Through union we can do, but there is another thing that is intersect, accept. I will show you with the example, so that's much better, explaining this theoretically. So I have this table, employee details. So I have this table, emp id, emp name, emp salary. This is the first employee id, name is Pranaya, salary is 100, remover, but anyhow. So to Priyanka 200. Yeah. So this, and third is this, fourth is this. Two are names are same, but they are different people. So employee ID is different, and this is the salary. Fine. So emp id, emp name, emp salary. Let's see what we have in this table. Here also emp id, emp name, emp salary. Now these two First two records are same in this table also. First Pranay 100 to this, but here employee ID is 5, name is same, that's fine, but the employee ID is different. So the whole record changes, right? Because of the primary key. So it is 5, it is 1, 6, and here it is 3 and 4, I believe. Let me just check. Yes. So when we do union, in union, what happens? All this data will be combined one above the other, and duplicates will be removed. So here, what is the duplicate values which you have? That is the first two records. Yes, both are same in these two tables. So if I show you this data together, so here, this first two rows are common. Yes, these two are different. So when I do union, all the records will be joined, and joined basically will be combined, but duplicates will be removed. So only one entry of these two records will be present, not two times. So let me just show you that. If I do union, yes, and if I do this, as you can see, there is only one entry for first record, second, then third and fourth were of course single entry, so there will be single entry in 5 and 6. So I have combined both the tables, but duplicate entries are not present here. But what if you want duplicate entries as well? You want to see. So for that, just one keyword is required, union all. So if you do this, here you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, and again 1, 2, 5, 6. So I am seeing the duplicate records as well. Fine. So nothing much. For this, you have to have the same data type and same ordering of the columns. So these are some rules. These are set operations, union, intersect, except. So is this clear, guys? If this is clear, then other two operations are very simple. That is intersect and except. Just confirm me if this is clear or not. Okay, perfect. Just give me a sec. All right. So now let's see what is intersect and accept. Yes. So this was union. Union is the name is telling us. So if I say union removes duplicate primary keys, no duplicate primary keys. Uh, yeah, you can say, but the whole record should be same. Yes, the whole record. Even if yeah, no, that's the incorrect statement. Union will not remove duplicate primary keys because let's say this is my table. Just hold. Let's suppose I was having 3 and 4 here also. Yes, 3 and 4 primary key is fine because it is unique in this table, but the names, let's say, were different. Here, let's say Rajesh, Mangesh, two names are different, but here name is Priti and Priti. So if I would have done union, so still 3 and 4 would have been present, 3 and 4 would have been present. Why? Because the whole records are not same. So there would have been double entries. So it's not that primary key, duplicate primary keys will not be present. The whole record should not be same. Whole records duplicate like whole record should not be there. Common record should be there. It is not depending on just this primary key. So it depends on the whole record. Who is this? Anonymous attendee. Is it clear now? Okay. All right. So let me show. And can you please execute with union once more? Acha. Okay. Check it. Yes, I think it's clear. Now let's move on to intersect now. So what is intersect going to do? Intersect is going to do that. It will only show the common records. 1, 2, and these two are common, right? And these two are different. So it is just going to be showing the first two records. That's it. That's the meaning of intersect. That's it. So let me do this. And yeah, just the two records we are going to use. Yes. And what is accept? I will show you that also. It's simple. I mean, this is not too complex, but when there are lots of data, that time these functions are useful. So accept means, let's say I'm doing accept on this first table first. I mean, I am providing, this is my first table, it is employee details. If I'm providing accept, I'm writing this table first. That means the columns, the rows which are not present in this table will be shown in the output. So right now, third and fourth rows are not present in this table, right? So third and fourth records will be present in my output. So accept means, as the name is telling us, it is going to show the accept the records which are not present in the second table. So let me do this. Yes. So third and fourth records are not present in the second table. So that's why I'm just seeing these two records. So well, is it clear? I think it is pretty simple, but still, if anyone has any query, then please let me know. Okay, perfect. Anyone else facing any type of issue? I think it's good. Fine. Great. So let me move on. Can this be used with more than two tables? Definitely, you can do this. Just provide. Yeah. So I just did with the same table. That's why you will see some duplicate records. Yeah, you can do it uh, with any number of tables you want. Yes, it's just like joining multiple joins. So multiple unions, multiple accept, union with an accept, various combinations you can try depending on what type of table you require, what type of output you require. Yes. So you can just try it. If you try, you will get your answer there itself. So okay. And display in intersect and except the rule is same as union and yes. Intersect and except the rule is same as union always. These are like set operations. If you know mathematics set operations, if you know relational algebra and all, so these concepts have the same meaning in the relational algebra also. The same meaning applies here also. So the rules are same. Can we display the table names column? You can do that, but I once mentioned that select T1 as employee table, select T2 as that way you can do. You can do instead of doing select star, you can do that. That will work. Okay, perfect. Okay, so now the next part is query optimization. Uh, this I'm covering, but it's not required as a data analyst, but still you guys are interested in database management systems. So I've learned about query tree and all those concepts like that, but I think that's not required for me. So let me write first a basic query. Let me use another database. Use payroll. Okay, let me write a query. Select count from where we did is equal to 2019 20715. All right. Now let me execute this. This is just a simple query. So there are no records which are having this date. It's fine. I don't even want to see the output. Output is not necessary. So I'm just doing a count operation here. So how many employees are having the pay date as this? So there are 0 employees. So it's fine. So let me do just another thing. Display estimated execution plan. Uh, if I click on this, so actually here you can see the how much cost. It's not like the monetary cost. It's not that cost. It's time, space, and all that that factors are included in this cost term. So as you can see in table scan, it is taking cost as 94%. So it's basically scanning the whole table. So it's taking too much time, and you can say it is not optimized as such. Yes, because there is a concept that is indexing. We create an index on a column due to which the speed increases. So I can discuss those things, but it's not required, so it's fine. But just I want to give you a glance that by just clicking on this thing, this estimated execution plan, you can understand that okay, this is going to be a costly operation and it is going to take time. Yes. So what you can do, you can decrease the uh, time duration or the execution time. We can create an index. So I will just show you how to create an index. Just know that we can do such a thing. And so let me just show you how we can do that. So we have this, you know, uh, this column which we have indexes. Right now there is no index. So what I can do, I can just right click on this. I can go to new index, and there is a concept that is clustered index, non-clustered index. I'm not going to discuss those things. So it's pretty simple actually, but maybe later in this, in the course, if I get time, I will be discussing all these things. So right now I'll be creating a non-clustered index. Okay. All right. So this is the table name we can see. Next name, let's give it as test one. And index key column I have to add. So basically there are two columns here. So let me add an index column. So let me do that as pay date, and included columns. Let me add SID employee, and let me just click on OK. So basically index key column means that on which uh, column I am adding an index. So on basis of this column pay date, index will be added to this table. So I'll just click on OK. So as you can see, the index has been created, non-unique, non-clustered. Yes. So now if I try to execute this, and now if I try to view this thing, display estimated execution plan, now you can see the cost has been reduced to 22%. Yes. So this is the benefit of index. Actually, there are many disadvantages also of using index. So those are like out of the syllabus for now. So just wanted to show you use case of index. There are many other ways. Let me show you some of them. Uh, it's not that you just have to create an index to minimize the cost. It's nothing like that. Uh, because big queries will take time, so you need a way to optimize. So these are like some of the guidelines. I think my page is, let me try to zoom a bit. Yeah, I will share this textbook. It says Oracle. Oracle, no, those things are fine. This is not related to SQL Server. This is a textbook which I used for a quiz because let's not discuss this. So, uh, so these are like some of the guidelines. Always include a where clause in the select statement to narrow down the number of tuples in records here. Return until all the tuples are required. This reduces the network traffic and increases overall performance of the query. Try to limit the size of the query's result set by projecting only the specific attributes, not all. Means it is telling us that don't always select star. Select star means selecting all the attributes. Just select the columns which are required to optimize the query. Try using stored procedures and views in place of large queries. Yeah. So if you are having a complex query, try to create it in a stored procedure or in a view so you can use it frequently. Try using constraints in place of triggers. Triggers, I guess you are not knowing. So anyways, ignore this part. And try to avoid performing operational data objects referenced in the where clause. So like don't do any operation where there is a condition. Let's say here there is an operation, right? Where page count plus 300. So don't try to do any kind of operation in the where clause here, where like wherever you're trying to provide a condition. So try to avoid that. And try to use the equal to operator as much as possible and not equal to operator as least as possible. This is because the not equal to operator slows down the execution process. Try to avoid the text functions such as lower or upper, to convert it to lowercase, uppercase. So it's just some of the guidelines. Uh, Try to avoid the having clause whenever possible. So it's not like you don't have to use it, but try to avoid it. I mean, if it is possible by some other way, then try to do that. Try to avoid using listing clause whenever it is possible, as it results in performance degradation. It should be only used when absolutely necessary. Yes, so these are some of the guidelines which you can follow. And there is another concept which I'm not going to tell you, but just trying to show. Actually, there is lots of mathematics involved in query optimization. Actually, so there is something called as query evaluation plan which we have. So there is a query tree, like this is a join operation which we have, and so it basically tells like which operation will be happening first, and according to that we have to create our query. So these are like just ignore this part, and uh, it is little bit complex but not required. So yeah, we have some tree, we have a query tree, then like this is some initial expression tree which we have, then how we can optimize it. Where now this is the final expression tree, you optimized it. So there is a process which you have, and for that you need to have some knowledge of relation algebra, relation calculus. So these are the set operations which we have. So you need to have some idea about that. There are many rules and all those things are there. So it's fine. I think at least you got some idea, guys, how we can optimize the query. Just give me confirmation so I can move on to normalization. That is the last part in SQL. Not very clear, sir. Okay. What's not clear? Tell me. Okay. So its application. Actually, you don't have to worry about this thing. Just write your query. I just wanted to provide you some basic guidelines on how we can optimize your query. You know, just try to avoid using star everywhere. Try to provide specific columns. Try to avoid using distinct. All this, all these things will matter when you are having a large data. Right now, we are working with small data set. Even this human resources database is very small. In real world scenario, the data set is huge. Yes, so even writing select star from table will take a lot of time to process to get all the data, right? So you need to have, I'm getting error while assigning foreign key. You check it, Arvind, check what's the error and try to rectify it. So query optimization is required at that point. So how you can use queries in optimized way instead of having a time delay. Yes, so not required, I can say as such, but just that follow the basic guidelines which I told, from the book, whichever points I mentioned. Try to do this, and there is a way that is indexing which you can do to uh, reduce the cost, but just know a little bit about query optimization. That there is something called as query optimization, which people do, which we can do. Yes, just have a little know-how about this. That's it. I'm not trying to provide you all the information related to this. Yes, that's not my focus here, but just wanted to tell you that there is something that is known as query optimization part, which is also there. Okay, perfect. So let's move on to normalization. So for that, I'm not going to use any hands-on, because this is not something which I can do. This I can explain you from sites only. From sites also, it is very confusing. So I'm going to explain you. So okay, first let me create a base. So there is something called as database design process. Yes. So like uh, when the database is being created, when we start creating a database, there are certain steps we follow. So that is called as database design methodology. So first there is something called as requirement collection and analysis. We first find out the requirement, what we have to do. you know. First, we should know that what is the business, what is the domain, what is the need, and that we should understand like what is the requirement. Then there is something called as conceptual database design. Here there are many ways. There is like ER diagram is there, QML class diagrams are there. There are many ways which you can do this conceptual database design. So I'm not going to tell you about it, but just to tell you that there is a process. Then we do choice of a DBMS. DBMS is SQL Server, SQLite, MySQL. We choose the DBMS at the third stage, depending on various factors, cost, maintenance. Then there is another thing, that is logical database design. So we basically do normalization at this point, or we can even do at this point also conceptual database design or logical database design. And then physical database design. Physical just means that what type of hardware you're going to use, file structure, paths, indexing, clustering of records, hashing techniques, all those things. Then implementation, and then comes testing and evaluation. So this is a life cycle of creating a database. Yes. So in this, there is a concept that is called as normalization. So I'll be showing you this, how that happens. So with simple examples. So normalization in basic words, it means that breaking down a table. Like now this is a table, right? So I have to break it. I have to break this table somehow to normalize it. So normalization just means that I am going to break this table into smaller parts to reduce data repetition and to increase the data integrity. So basically, you don't have to do this. That's why I told you about the steps. This happens in while database is created. It's not that all the data has been processed and the data is there in the table and then you have to do this. No, it happens when the database is created, when we're creating a database. At that point of time, you have to consider all these things. It's not that we are having this data and now you are trying to normalize it. No. So that's the good practice. Even after data has been created, still you can do, but that's not effective. Generally, if I was there, if I was a database admin, if I was working in database department, wherever, like whoever is working on this, I would follow this life cycle, and I would be doing the normalization part in conceptual database design or logical database design. Yes. So normalization is that breaking down the tables to increase data integrity and to reduce uh, data repetition. So it's a process organizing data in the database to avoid data redundancy and some anomalies that are there. Yes. So there are basically 6 kinds of normalization. Actually, it is till BCNF, it is fine. There is like 1NF, 2NF, 3NF, and BCNF, that is voice chord normal form. So it is enough till BCNF only. No one does till 4NF, 5NF, 6NF. But still, I will just let me see if I want to show that or not. So let's first try with 1NF. What is first normal form? So it is pretty simple. So there are some rules are there, and you just have to remember those. Don't even remember, just move. So as per the rule of the first normal form, an attribute column of a table cannot hold multiple values. It should hold only atomic values. So it's pretty simple. So let's say, mhm. Okay, fine. So this is the table which I'm having currently. Yes, this is the employee ID, employee name, and all this is there. So here you can see that there are two values for this John. These are two values for this Lester. Yes, two values in a single column. So 1NF just it is telling us that a column should not hold multiple values. If it is holding, then it is not in 1NF form. So this is not atomic. Atomic means having a single value. So to convert this into 1NF, I do it in this fashion. What I did, uh, This John was having two phone numbers, right? This 88 and 99. So let's see what we did. We created two columns. John, these things will remain same 102, 102, John, John, Kanpur, Kanpur. But these phone numbers are different now. So there are basically two records. So in one column, there is only one value. Atomic values are there. Fine. So this is one NF. And I think this is pretty simple. Just give me a confirmation if this is understood. Basically, only one value should be present in each column. That's it. Mm, any issues in this? Okay, perfect. So now 2NF, see, these like sequential, okay? So if you want to convert into 2NF, first it should be in 1NF. If you want to do it in 3NF, first it should be in 2NF itself. So that way, if you want to do 5NF, then it should be at least in 4NF. So everything is sequential. So if 1NF is there, then only we can convert it to 2NF, you know? So it should be done serially. So if it is already in 1NF, then we can do it in 2NF. So here is the rule. Uh, Table is in 1NF. Yes, this should be there. Then no non-prime attribute is dependent on the proper subset of any candidate key of the table. Now this is like complex thing they're telling us to do. An attribute that is not part of any candidate key is known as fine. Okay, let me check the example and I will try to explain. Okay. Okay. So let's see this example. Yes. Now you can see that teacher ID is getting repeated. So of course, teacher ID is not a primary key. Why? Because primary keys are unique and they're not duplicates, right? They're unique and they don't have any null values. So teacher ID is not primary key. Even subject is getting repeated somewhere, I guess. Physics. This is not a primary key. This is not a primary key. So what is a primary key? A teacher ID and subject, these both are combined collectively a primary key that is known as composite key. Yes. So teacher ID, the combination of teacher ID, the subject is the key here, is the primary key, or you can say composite key. So 111 in maths is a single key which we have. Yes. So to to make you understand what is 2NF, I just want to tell you in this example that a non-key, non-primary key, or what's the term that we can telling is non-prime attribute. Non-prime attribute means which is not a primary key, which is not a part of the primary key. So teacher age is a non-prime attribute because it is not in the composite key, right? It is not a primary key, not even a candidate key. Yes. So any non-prime attribute should not be dependent on a subset of the composite key or a primary key. So basically, this is my composite key, right? This teacher ID and subject. This is my uh, composite key. Now, non-prime attribute means this teacher age is a non-prime attribute. This should not be dependent on the subset of the composite key. What is the subset of this composite key? It is either teacher ID or subject. It is a subset, right, of this whole set. So teacher age is dependent on just teacher ID, right? It is not dependent on subject, correct? Because teacher ID and teacher age will remain same. 33340, 3340. So this is not in 2NF, right? Why? Because this non-prime attribute is dependent on the subset of this composite key. If it is depending on this whole key, then it's fine. If this is depending, if this is depending on this whole composite key, then it's fine. But right now it is just getting dependent on this teacher ID, which is a part of the whole composite key. Yes. So that's why this is not in 2NF. To make it in 2NF, we break the table. Now see how we have created two tables. Now you can see teacher age is just depending on this teacher ID. That's it. And this subject is depending on this teacher ID. That's it. Simple. Yes. So this is how we can do it in 2NF. Guys, any query about this? All right. I think it's fine. Pop, 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 pop. Check, check, check. Okay. So let's move on to 3NF. Yes. So again, the first rule is that it should be in 2NF, like I told you, and transitive functional dependency of blah blah blah. Okay. Yeah, that's why I told you that even if you read this, right, you will not be understanding. That's why I thought of explaining it. All right. Let me first check the example. State, city, district. All right. So this is the table here which we have. Yes, this is a simple table which we have. EMP ID is the primary key which we have. EMP name, EMP zip, state, city, district. Fine, 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 fine. So now what 3NF says is that all the non-prime attribute, non-prime meaning it is not a candidate key or not a primary. Candidate key means those keys, those attributes which are eligible to be primary key. Yes. So zip can be considered as a primary key. So it can be considered as a no, zip cannot be there because zip can be a duplicate value. So yes, so EMP ID is the primary key. Now, if you see this EMP state, EMP city, EMP district, all this should be ideally dependent on just employee ID. That is the primary key. But here, these three columns are getting dependent on this zip also, which is not a primary. Yes, because through zip only we can know that okay, this is like this zip code is from this state, this city, this district. Yes, so this is like a transitive what's the term? Transitive functional dependency, because these three are getting dependent on this, and this zip is getting dependent on this EMP ID. Yes, because through this primary key, we can identify, okay, for this EMP ID, we are having this zip, and this zip is having this details. So this is some kind of transitive dependency, functional dependency, which we have. So in simple terms, a non-prime attribute should not be dependent on another non-prime attribute. This is also a non-prime attribute. Non-prime in the sense that it is not a primary key or it is not a candidate key. These are also non-prime. So 3NF means that a non-prime attribute should not be dependent on another non-prime attribute. So this is happening, right? This is the case right now. So this is not in 3NF. So now what we do is we have EMP ID, EMP name, EMP zip. So now EMP zip is just depending on EMP ID. Yes. So now there is no transitive functional dependency. This is another thing, employee zip table now. Now these three things are just depending on the primary key here, because now EMP zip is the primary. So now there is no transitive functional dependency. Now we have formed the table into 3NF. Yes. So guys, any query in this? If you have not understood any part, it's clear. Perfect. Thank you. So let me just discuss one more thing, that is BCNF. Let's not discuss 4NF, 5NF, 6NF, because no one goes till that, it's not required. So I don't want to overload you with all that information. Okay, so let's discuss just one thing, BCNF. And okay, fine. So BCNF is just advanced version of 3NF, and it is more stricter than 3NF. So a table is in BCNF, every functional dependency is access to Y and super to the table, blah, blah, blah. So I can explain you all these things, but it requires some other concepts to make you understand. There is something called as functional dependency, which you might not be aware of. So let's not go into that. I can simply make you understand what is BCNF. Hmm? So in the previous example of 3NF, there was no candidate key. Yes, but in this example, uh, let me check. Candidate key is CMP department. Correct. So there is basically a uh, what's the difference between 3NF and BCNF? In 3NF, there is no concept of a candidate key. It's just that a non-prime attribute should not be dependent on another non-prime attribute. The same thing applies here also, but there is another thing which we will consider here. That is, uh, uh, just let me confirm if that's correct or not. Okay, fine. A non-prime attribute should not be dependent on another candidate key also. That also should not happen. So right now, I have this example, EMP ID, EMP country, EMP department, department number, department type. So this is my primary key for now. Yes, EMP ID, but even EMP department can be considered as a candidate key. Yes, because this is like a unique thing. Sorry, EMP department number. Yeah, this is the thing. Yes, so this is kind of unique here, as you can see. So this can be considered as a what you can say candidate key. So this EMP department and department type is dependent on this department number, right? Because this department and department type are coming from this department number. It is getting identified from this. It is not getting identified from this employee ID, because this employee ID can be transferred to, I guess, some other department also. It's fine. So these things are dependent on this. So this should not happen in BCNF. It should not, this non-prime attribute should not be dependent on another candidate key also. So this is happening here. So this is not in BCNF. See, if you see here, EMP ID is EMP country. Means EMP country is getting derived from EMP ID, that's fine. But department type and department number are getting derived from EMP department. I mean this. Uh, or okay, from this they're getting derived, they're telling, but still this both can be derived from this also. So it's similar. This is just the name of the department, that's it. So the table is not in BCNF because neither EMP department nor EMP ID alone are the keys. Correct. So now what they're doing, now they are breaking down the table. Now there is EMP ID and EMP country. So EMP ID is this EMP country. So this country is just dependent on EMP ID. It's fine. Now we have broken down the table. Now this is EMP department table. So now everything is getting derived from this department itself, department type and department number. And now we require some kind of joining, right? How we will relate between this EMP ID and EMP department, because now we don't have any foreign key. See, EMPID, EMP country, department, department type. So there is no way to connect these two tables, right? So we require some kind of a joining table. So this is a joining table, or you can say mapping table. So EMPID with EMP department. So this is the EMPID, this is the EMP department. So that way, these two tables are joined. We have a relation. So this is how we can create this in BCNF. Yes. So guys, is this clear? Could you explain why do we need to do normalization? Yeah, that is for what you can say. I told you, right? For data integrity and to reduce, uh, it's in the top itself, to avoid data redundancy. And there are some anomalies which occur if we don't do this, like insertion anomaly, update anomaly, delete anomaly. So uh, there are some errors which occur uh, if the tables are not normalized. I can show you, but it's not required. There are proper examples given here also why we need to do that. But just think that this is some kind of an optimization we do to avoid certain kind of anomalies, update anomaly, deletion anomaly, insertion anomaly, and to reduce data redundancy and to increase data integrity. That's it. So if we have the database in BCNF, if we have the tables like that, then it's good. It's good to do that. So is the concept clear? You don't need to remember all these things, but still, if somewhere it is asked, then you can answer that. Okay, guys. So I think I will be ending the session here. If you have any query, then just raise your hand and I can answer. If not, then great. Then so this was the end of sequel. I might take some few topics later on, if I feel that that should be included. But so from next class, I think Python or Excel will be started. I'm not sure. Most surely Python, but fine. So let me know if you have any query. Yeah, Arvind.
Yeah, actually, I have a query, right? While assigning for a foreign key, I'm getting error. So, I mean, what are the best practices for writing a syntax on this part?
Foreign key.
Yeah.
Hmm, foreign key, it's just that hmm, uh, let's say this is the EMP ID that is the primary key here, and you are using EMP ID in another table also. So this is a foreign key for this table.
Yeah.
So I mean, no best practices as such, but foreign key is just a primary key which you're using in another table for connecting, for having a relation between those two tables. That's it. There is, I mean, no best practices as you can see, because you're just trying to connect the two tables. That's it, based on a particular column. Do you have any information on internship? No, I don't have right now, but
Okay.
it should be started shortly. Okay, Arvind, is that clear?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Shailendra.
For same problem for me also, the primary key and that even I also getting a problem sometimes.
What's the error you are getting when you try to do that?
Whenever I will do some problem is coming, the error is uh, I have not choose the proper primary key.
Yeah, so first of all, when you're creating a foreign key, whatever foreign key you are trying to create, first that column,
Yeah.
whatever column you are trying to do, make it as foreign key, that should be a primary key in another table. If it is not a primary key in another table, then you cannot create a foreign key. So first, in the source table, try to create that
Oh,
particular column as a primary key, and then try to make the foreign key in another table using that column, which is a primary key in another table. Getting my point, some
uh,
idea you're getting?
primary.
Yeah,
Yeah, got.
yeah,
And one more thing, in
yeah.
interview they will ask the this one data warehouse also questions.
No, I don't think data warehousing questions are there as such. SQL basics are required, but if it is in a job description, then you can prepare accordingly. If they have mentioned that this knowledge is also required, then you can work on it. Yes, if it's required. If not, then fine.
Oh,
Urvin, there is one
on-
more error. I'm getting
on-
that.
only see.
Yeah, arithmetic
Uh,
overflow error converting expression to the data type integer.
what you're trying to do? What are you
Yeah,
trying to do in that?
I'm trying to create a new table.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm getting that arithmetic overflow error.
Yeah, I think you are trying to provide a value which is, which is greater than the data type which you have assigned to that particular column. So I think I've told you about data arithmetic overflow, right? I've shown you that cast thing, why I used the cast, why I changed the data type. So you must be providing a value which is greater than the data type size. Let's say you are assigning the data type as integer and you are trying to provide a value which is much greater than its range. So try to give the data type as big int, So I think then it will take.
Okay.
I
Thank
think
you.
that's the issue. Okay. So another question. Who will take Python from next week? I think that will be Devansh or Yash. I have to check. Most probably Devansh, but let's see.
Can you suggest any tool for visualization using SQL?
I think there are many online tools to visualize SQL queries. If you just Google it, I think you will get so many tools are there. Just online tools. It's not able to download.
Yeah.
So I think there are many. There are plenty. Just Google it. You will get many. Yes. Okay. I think that's it. Thank you guys for joining the session, and I hope you enjoyed the SQL part. So, okay. Yeah, Sonia, tell me.
Hi, no, I just wanted to say you've been a great tutor for all of us. I think everyone would agree with me on this that you've been very patient with us from the beginning itself by answering questions on the go while you were teaching. Yeah, thank you very much for that.
Yeah, sure. Not an issue. Thank you so much for your feedback. Yeah. And let's hope that you guys also like Devansh or Yash, whoever is going to teach you. And Amit was not there, so I had to take the responsibility. But thank you for the feedback. And yeah, thank you. All right, guys. Have a good day then. And still, I'm available on Skype. If you have any query related to any topics, even Python or anything. I know all those things, but I'm already taking a batch, and so I'm taking a morning session of the new batch. So uh, I thought that let's just take a single session, and there are more people who can take the session, so they will be taking. And but still, if you have any query, I will answer you. On Skype or wherever possible. Yeah. So thank you everyone and have a good day.
Thank you, Urvin.